All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Monday, January 8th. We have 6 games on today's NBA slate. Like we always do, we're going to jump into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my lean or leans on the games. We'll talk about it, anything that we like in the player prop, the spread, the total perspective. But as always, all of my final plays, what I'm actually rolling with myself, those are going to be in the pinned comment if you do want to fade my picks and do the opposite, which the last few nights here, guys, that has been the absolute move. Taking what I'm saying in terms of final plays and doing the opposite, because another bad one last night, 1 and 3 here. Spencer Dinwiddie being our first play of the day, and it cashes. I was like, all right, here we go. We're finally bouncing back. We're cooking up a good night. We're 1 for 1 so far. Kings are the next one. They get blown out. The Suns, back and forth game. Memphis ultimately pulls it out and really controls that game at the end. And then Russell Westbrook, we had 3 different ways of playing Russell Westbrook yesterday, all totaling up to 1 unit. So we had a half unit on his over PRA, and then a quarter unit on his points and assists, and then a quarter unit on his points plus rebounds. The dude had 10 PRAs at halftime, and I was like, all right, we're cooking. We're cooking. Here's a good one. He got 1 rebound as a stat for the rest of the game. So that was tough there. You know what? We can own the womp womp, because last week, tough. Like, we're in one of those ruts, and I think everyone, if you've been sports betting long enough, you know it comes and goes. Like, we'll go in a rut. We'll get just as hot at some point in the season too. It just kind of sucks right now. But in terms of some good news here, we do have the ride of the day coming in from Fred again. He's now 2 days in a row of cashing the ride of the day. Yesterday's was Aaron Gordon under 15.5 points. Cashed it. He only had 8 points in 20 minutes of play. So Fred is on absolute fire here, guys. If you don't know what the ride of the day is, all you got to use is hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Give me an absolute banger of a pick. And as of late, we're jumping on board with the person that keeps hitting. So like I said, Fred, 2 hits in a row here. We'll be looking out for his comment today. But make sure you drop your hashtags. I want to see who's right, who's ready for the next time that we ride with this. So go ahead and drop hashtag ride of the day in the comments. I'm also posting it over on my X/Twitter, so make sure to follow me there. I've been following everyone back as of late. But let's go ahead and jump into the first game of the night here. We got the Hornets taking on the Bulls. Now, these two teams just played a couple nights ago. Chicago did what you'd expect them to do, right? They won by 13, but Chicago was at home there. Now they're 6.5 point favorites on the road, and I really don't like Chicago on the road this year, or even as of late. So yes, they've cooled off from when they were playing really, really well, like maybe 2 weeks ago or something like that. But 6.5 points seems like it's a little bit too much for me overall here. So I almost reluctantly lean towards Charlotte plus the 6.5 points, though they're pretty damn bad at home this year, right? So they're 4-11 at home. They're against the spread numbers. They're 7-8 at home against the spread. So it's like, yeah, they're still negative against the spread, but hell of a lot better than what you're seeing from their record. So keeping some games close. I do think that 6.5 points is a little bit too much. Whether or not this becomes a final play, keep an eye on the pinned comment, because we'll have to see how confident we can really be in a Charlotte team, right? Like, that's a tough pill to swallow in and of itself. From a total perspective, 217. So obviously 217 is a low number. It's low for a reason. Even when we saw these two teams just play, like, what was it, right? Like I told you, it was 104 to 91, like not even remotely close to even getting into the 200s there. So I do think that could be a struggle to get to 217, 218 to win this. But again, Charlotte's at home. They play better at home. I think they score a few more points here, so slightly lean towards the over. Like, I'm almost like the spread pick and this total pick are kind of like against what you'd normally think. But again, maybe I'm putting too much weight into Charlotte at home. I just think they'll play a little bit better basketball, which from a total perspective, they should at least give you, 105 or something like that, which if the Bulls can come in and do what they've been doing, then, they can give you somewhere near in the 110s. It's like, it should be an over, but again, this is kind of a wonky game altogether. Now, I do have a player prop that I like in this spot. It's actually DeMar DeRozan, and we're not looking at his points. We're not looking at his DeMar DeRozan over 4.5 assists could be a potential play in this spot. So this is a Charlotte team that, to the small forward position, allowing plenty of assists over the last 15, number 1 in the entire league, averaging 6 assists allowed to the opposing small forward. And DeMar DeRozan's hit this line in 8 of his last 10. Now, the caution that I would put behind this is the fact that, yes, he needs 5 assists to cash, right? He's hit on 5 assists, so landed at 5 assists in 4 of those 8 that he's cashed in his last 10. But still, guys, this is a spot in which he's hit this in 60% of games this season. He had 6 assists last time they played. Dating back to the last 6 times they've played, he's hit it in 4. So I expect him to at least have his assist opportunities. But again, just note that it's not like I'm taking him over 4.5 assists and thinking that he's going to go out there and drop, 8 assists. Like, he's landed on 5 plenty of times here, and it makes a lot of sense. He's averaging just over 8 potential assists per game, so the volume isn't even there from an assist perspective. But yeah, give me him over 4.5 assists. Again, I do give you that little caveat of somewhat of a caution. All right, next up, another good game here we can expect from the Pacers and the Celtics. We saw a decent one a couple nights back on Friday, and this was obviously, or was it Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. We saw the Celtics win that one 118-101, but obviously competitive at plenty of different spots in that game. But Celtics ultimately kind of showed that, hey, I think we're the better team. Like, this Pacers team's having a good year. I'll give them credit. Even at home, they're playing well, right? But the Celtics team is kind of in that upper echelon, in my opinion. I'm a Celtics fan, so yeah, I'm probably a little biased towards them here, but when healthy, this team, like I said, is one of the better teams here now. Tatum and Porzingis, both game time decisions in this spot. Same thing with Sam Hauser, who's been a crucial piece off the bench. So 3 injuries that we're going to want to keep an eye on for the Celtics heading into this game. If everyone plays and everyone's healthy, I like the Celtics again. I don't care about it's hard to beat a team twice, but like, no, the Pacers beat the Celtics earlier in the year, and the Celtics beat them by like 50, right? And that was without Halliburton and their guys, so I kind of throw that one out the window. But the Pacers beat the Celtics in the tournament there, and then the Celtics bounced back in a good way, 118-101. And I think that the same thing would apply for this game. Like, when push comes to shove and the game needs to get defensive, that's where the Celtics can capitalize, and that's what I liked about the game last time, right? Celtics in the under. I'm gonna lean towards the exact same thing today, because at 244, obviously a high number, and I know the Pacers are gonna push the pace, and there's a chance that they could blow this out of the water. Like, the Pacers could score 244 themselves, right? But if the Celtics want to win this game, which I do think that they're the better team, and if they do win this, it's going to come down more to them playing defense than playing offense. I think that's how it's going to go down. Now, no Tatum, no Porzingis. As much as those guys are offensive players, that's a huge crush to the 4 and 5 position defensively on the Celtics. So keep an eye on the pinned comment and keep an eye on the injury report for this. With that being said, if either one of those guys are out, I'm looking at Jaylen Brown's lines. We don't have lines now because I think the books are waiting to see what kind of rolls out with those injuries. But if both of them are out, great. If either one of them are out, I'm looking at Jaylen Brown's lines, looking at Derek White's lines, because they're obviously going to have a little bit of an uptick in offensive volume. So we might roll with something there. Again, Jaylen Brown, obviously would kind of take in that Tatum role, and Porzingis, a lot of shots to give up, but just a lot of usage to give up more than anything else. So keep an eye on the pinned comment to see what we end up rolling with there. All right, guys, before we continue on with the game, let me talk to you about OddsJam, one of my favorite sports betting tools out here. And this is the way that you can kind of mathematically dismantle any sportsbook out there. So first off, you can use the link in the pinned comment, get 7 days free. You throw in code GUYBOSTON, GUYBOSTON. You'll get your first month for 25% off, which is a crazy, crazy deal. But we'll jump in right here. What I love about OddsJam is they have a couple cool tools that any sports bettor can benefit from. First off, we're on the sportsbook screen, which you can see all of the information in here. This literally compares. You can go through spread, any bet that you want to look at, right? Player props, points plus assists, blah, blah, blah. Any prop, we just have the main markets plugged in here, but you can go through it and look at literally every sportsbook, pretty much damn near known to man, and compare the odds. It gives you the best odds and the average odds, so you know the sportsbooks you're placing it on if you're getting the best deal. Kind of on top of that, they have this positive EV screen, which is absolutely amazing. For example, if we look at this and look at McNeese college basketball, right? -20 on stake. You can obviously filter the sportsbooks that you like. You can look at this and say, okay, well, -20 is -106 here over on stake. Again, average odds -110 across the board. So the best lines that you're going to be getting are looking at, I guess, the stake sportsbooks there. Now they tell you when they move, everything like that. This positive EV tool is absolutely crazy. Think about it like flipping a quarter, right? If you had a quarter that you could flip and you knew that heads had a 55% chance of hitting, you're betting heads every single time, right? Over time, that's going to be beneficial. One flip, sure, it can go either way. This is sports betting. But if you have an edge, which is what the positive EV tool has, right? 6% edge here, 7.8% edge here, 10% edge here. Millwall versus Millborough, plus 720. Average books odds are 645. It's a really cool tool. And talk about having an edge. I've talked about the arbitrage tool before, right? This is literally a risk-free way of making profit. Based on this soccer game here, you could take both sides of a bet. So team total over 1.5 and team total under 1.5. You could put, say, $50 over here and 84.68 over there, guaranteed profit of 132 no matter what the outcome is. Guys, I can go on and on about this tool because OddsJam has so many cool tools how to do that. So yes, you're not getting the last five of a player or anything like that, but if you want to mathematically make money in sports betting, OddsJam is your best bet. No pun intended. Go check it out. That link is in the pinned comment. Now let's go ahead and get back to the rest of the slate here. All right, we got Washington hosting OKC. Obviously, Washington going to be huge underdogs here because that's just how they roll. But they are 11.5-point dogs here at home. In terms of what they've done lately, their offense has looked absolutely god-awful. Now, I know they've had like a up and down offense all year, but really, like, they've struggled to get out of the 110s or even to the 110s plenty in their last, week of games or so. Their last three games, 101, 90, and 105. Like, tough. OKC's coming in, obviously playing good basketball, but they have dropped 2 straight, so no doubt in my mind that OKC says, all right, you know what? Let's win a game here to get back on the win train, because last time they lost 2 games in a row was a while back, right? But 10.5 points, 11.5 points, no matter what you get it on, is a lot. I'll still lean and lay the points with OKC because this Washington team, if there's one thing that we could say about them, is that when they go down, and this is so crucial for sports betting too, there's like no backdoor cover from Washington, right? When they go down and they're losing, like, they pretty much flop and fold and give up. So when you see these big numbers, like, I'm actually more willing to lay that number against Washington than I would against a Pistons or a Charlotte, or, you know what I mean? Like, I do think that they are a team that's like, whatever, who cares? Like, the team doesn't like each other. They have no future. Like, it's pretty tough. So I'll lay the points with OKC. If we could buy that down to like 9.5, to be honest, I might play that as a final play, pay a little juice, but I think they win by double digits. The total is where this one gets a little interesting and maybe a little hairy because OKC shouldn't have any problems scoring on them. Last time they played, it was 127 to 110. I think OKC could get into the 130s here, but I don't know if Washington can easily get into the 110s, so I'm going to lean slightly towards the under. I don't think it becomes a final play because it'd be too easy for OKC to just score 1,000,000 points here and Washington to have one decent game all of a sudden, right? And like, they can score, if they score 110 or 112, not the best offensive night, but still enough that I think could push this over the edge. I just am not confident they do that, so I'm ruling out the over and considering the under just because I don't know if Washington pulls their weight. So, again, slight lean towards the under here because I think you can guarantee OKC scoring a bunch of points, especially after 2 straight losses, right? So there's sort of like a fact in the sense. Now the variable is like, what are we doing with Washington? That's where you lose my confidence overall. But again, slight lean towards the under. In terms of player props in this spot, because there's blow-up potential, I'll probably end up sticking away from everything here. I don't think that there's anything that jumps off the page to me. Not confident in anything from the Washington side of things. Maybe looking at Tyus Jones's under in assists again. We got burned by that the last time, but again, it comes down to a volume thing. Tyus Jones averaging 8 potential assists per game, right? Well, his line is sitting right now at 6.5. So I don't mind looking at that because, again, like, that means he on average should be getting right around 4 assists if his potential assists are 8. So don't mind the under there, but he burned us last game. We took the under and he had 8 assists. So maybe that's one player probably can look at, but overall, I think that this is an OKC or nothing game. All right, Miami taking on Houston. This Houston team all year long has impressed me overall, right? But on the road, they are a different team. They're not playing very good basketball on the road. And this is their first road game in like 7 games. They're embarking on an East Coast trip. So first game of that, I think I have to look at Miami minus 4.5. -4 on most sportsbooks now. So the graphics a little out of date. So yeah, give me Miami, even though it's like, I say that with a little bit of like, grit in my, like, I don't know if I trust this Miami team, but again, I gotta trust the fact that this Houston team is just so much different on the road than they are at home. So their record this season, 18-16, right? 3-10 on the road straight up, and then, on the road against the spread, they're a 500 ball club. So just I just can't get myself to totally trust them there. And again, the situation is crazy. They're going to be on a they haven't played on the road in 7 games, and now they're jumping onto an East Coast trip. Could be a tough spot night 1 for them. So I'll take Miami here. Now the total low at 219. I think it makes sense why. I don't think that points are easy to come by here. 219 still is a low number. I'm going to slightly lean towards the under, ever so slightly, because I could see this being like a 221 type of game, and it's like, oh damn, low scoring game is all hell, but 229. The line was even lower, right? In terms of 2 player props I like in this spot, I'm going to be looking at the same position. 2 guys are going to be battling it out. We got Alfie Sengun and Bam Adebayo. I'm looking at both of their points unders. In terms of what we're seeing defensively, this is a Houston team that covers the center position extremely well. 4th fewest points allowed on the entire season to the center position. And then you have Miami, the best team right now. Bam Adebayo is having a phenomenal defensive season, the best team covering centers this season here. So yeah, give me both of their point unders. Sengi's is 22.5, and then Bam Adebayo is 23.5. Next look for those, for kind of targeting unders for them, I'd look at their PRAs, because I think that they can limit. Both these guys are very like versatile centers as well, so they can limit each other kind of overall, not just in the points department. So yeah, I think that's going to be like an under type game. Like I said, slight lean towards the under just because it's a low total, and you have 2 very good defensive guys at this, or very good just defensive teams at stopping points in the paint and everything like that. So give me the under on both of, I guess, the 2 best guys on each team, or in the game. 1 best guy on each team. All right, next up we have Milwaukee taking on Utah. Now, not to say that I called it, because we didn't make it a final play, but Utah kept up with Philly, and they ultimately won the game in Philly last game, which is kind of like crazy, because this Utah team stinks on the road. So I expect them to not do that 2 games in a row against 2 Eastern Conference sort of powerhouse teams, right? So I'm going to lean towards Milwaukee in this spot. Damian Lillard's out, so worth noting there. Campaign as well, who would get some minutes out as well. So they're going to be thin at the guard position. I'm going to be looking at some, Middleton and Beasley props as well, because I think that they're going to get probably the biggest of bumps here from a player prop spot. But I wanted to let you guys know that, by the way, those are big reasons why this line is only 9.5. But still, Giannis Antetokounmpo, what pronunciation, right? Still playing in this game. Like, he should be enough to be able to go out there and kind of dominate a Utah team that, again, has stunk on the road. So I'm going to lay the points with Utah, with the Jazz, with the Bucks. We cleansed our ability to not talk this morning. It's early. I'm going to lay the points with Milwaukee here. It is at 9 on -9 over on Bet365 right now, so maybe most sportsbooks are going to follow suit. Maybe we'll wait it out. That Damian Lillard being ruled out campaign, I'm sure people are going to come in on Utah, so we'll see what that line does, because it could bump back up to 9.5. I wouldn't be surprised. But nonetheless, give me Milwaukee to win by double digits. The total sitting at 245. Little too high for me. Again, this is kind of similar to what we talked about with OKC and Washington. Like, I don't know if Utah necessarily gets there from a points perspective, because though Milwaukee's not a very good defensive team, right? We did see them play decent defense against Houston, even though they lose that game. That was a defensive brawl. We saw them hold Cleveland recently to a low number, and I think both those offenses, to some degree, are right on par with Utah. Even though Utah plays quick, I've told you guys all year long, right? They're not the most efficient offense. So yeah, I like the under here. I think that I'd rather lay the points with Milwaukee if we're having one final play in this spot. But again, keep an eye on the pinned comment for any player props in this game too, because we're waiting for some lines to come out. But I really don't mind looking at some of the guys who are getting more usage with Lillard being out, because that's going to be a lot of shots and a lot of ball handling to go around. All right, last game of the slate, we got the Clippers taking on the Suns. Right now, the Clippers heavy favorites, both teams on a back-to-back. So I don't want to, pull that on either team being like, oh, well, it matters for one versus the other. Both teams also have, veterans in a sense, so it's like, okay, well, I guess this should technically impact both teams when looking at no-rest situations, right? So no-rest situations for Phoenix this season, they're 3-2. You look at the Clippers, they're 2-3 against the spread. So it's like wishy-washy, right? I will say from an injury perspective, keep an eye on that. We could see some guys being ruled out because, again, like Durant just got back from injury. Now they're on a back-to-back. He's not on the injury report right now, but would we be surprised if he doesn't play? Probably not. They said he was on a minutes restriction yesterday. He played 36 minutes. Like, what type of minutes restriction is that? But again, guys, this is both these teams coming off a back-to-back, and in games in which that kind of went down to the wire. You look at Phoenix, and you're like, they lost by 6, dude. That was a back-and-forth game, and the Clippers only lost by 3. They were up for a lot of the game in a hard-fought game against the Lakers. So you have two tired teams, which makes me jump to the over ASAP. Both of these teams positive against the over-under record here, 3-2 to the over on back-to-backs this year. Hopefully we could see that between them again tonight. Last time they played was 131 to 122, and that was just a week ago, right? So I think that there could be a lot of points scored here. And let's face it, while both teams had been playing good defense, even Phoenix yesterday played good defense for 90% of the game. The Clippers have been playing good defense as well. One of the best defensive efficiency starting lineups in the entire league, which is absolutely crazy. That 5 is absurd, even though they lost yesterday. But when it comes down to it, there's also a crap ton of offensive talent on both these teams. So it's like, yeah, I get it. They're so defensive, but if they need to score and this pace starts going and going and going, I think that, we'll see buckets flow. So I'll lean slightly towards the Clippers as well, just because I think they're the better team. And I really like them as of right now. I'm not going to let that one loss affect it. But I will say, probably like the over the most in this game, because that Clippers game last night, they should have rolled the Lakers in my opinion, and they didn't. So give me the Clips and the over here. I like the over a little bit more. Player prop perspective, nothing out right now. Again, I think that's another kind of indicator that there may be some guys that are sitting or that are not going to play because it's back-to-back. So no player props literally even available for this game as of right now. But we'll update you guys, obviously, in the pinned comment with anything that we're rolling with. I didn't even tell you guys earlier, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. So if you've made it to this point in the video, go ahead and drop a 20 in the comments. Make sure you get those hashtag ride of the days going as well. And appreciate everyone for tuning in, sticking around, even through these rough stretches. But I tell you guys before, right? Like, every single day I'll show up here. We could be owing $1 million or our last $1 million bets. Then I'm just providing even more value, right? Take the opposite of what I'm saying. We have a brand built on it. We have a brand built on the humility of being able to take your losses, own your losses, but also kind of, pimp your wins. Like, yeah, go ahead, fade me. If you don't believe in my picks, go ahead. Like, we're confident. So hasn't been the best start to 2024, but long year, long season. And that's what it is, guys. We'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.